I thought I knew the man I shared a bed with for 10 years. Mark was a devoted father, a successful architect, and my best friend. But then I found a silver key taped to the bottom of his empty toolbox in the garage, a key that opened a door I didn't even know existed in our own home. What I found behind that door didn't just break my heart. It made me realize I had been living a lie since the day we said I do. If you think you know your partner, wait until you hear what Mark was hiding in the attic of his childhood home.
We lived a picture-perfect life in a quiet suburb. Mark was the guy who never missed a school play and always brought me flowers on Tuesdays, just because. But lately, things felt off. He started taking long business trips to his hometown, a small coastal village 3 hours away, claiming he was overseeing a renovation project for his aging mother. One Saturday, while cleaning the garage, I knocked over his heavy steel toolbox. It was supposed to be empty. He hadn't used it in years. But as it hit the floor, a hollow metallic clink echoed. I peeled back the heavy rubber lining at the bottom. There it was, a small, ornate silver key with the initials E.L. engraved on it. Mark's mother's name was Sarah. Who was E.L.?
The next time Mark left for his business trip, I didn't stay home. I waited an hour, packed a small bag, and drove to his hometown. I didn't go to his mother's house. Instead, I went to an old, abandoned Victorian house Mark had bought years ago, claiming it was an investment property that was too far gone to fix. The house looked haunted, overgrown with ivy and shadows. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard it hurt. I climbed the porch steps, the wood groaning under my feet. I tried the silver key on the front door. It didn't fit. I tried the back door. Nothing. Then I remembered. Mark always talked about the crow's nest, the tiny attic room in that house where he used to hide as a kid. I found a small side entrance leading to a narrow staircase. At the very top was a heavy oak door. I slid the silver key into the lock. It turned with a chillingly smooth click.
I pushed the door open, expecting dust and cobwebs. Instead, I stepped into a room that looked like a shrine. It was clean, smelled of expensive jasmine perfume, and was filled with photos. But they weren't photos of me or our kids. The walls were covered with pictures of Mark with another woman, a beautiful blonde with bright blue eyes, Evelyn. And standing between them in the photos was a little boy, about 7 years old, who looked exactly like Mark. My breath hitched. He had a second family. But as I looked closer, the suspense deepened. The photos weren't recent. The clothes were from the late 90s. The dates on the back of the frames were from before I even met Mark. I found a diary on the small desk. May 14th, 1998. Mark promised we would leave this town together. He says his family won't understand, but as long as we have our son, nothing else matters.
I heard a floorboard creak downstairs. Mark was here. I hid behind a heavy velvet curtain just as the door opened. But Mark wasn't alone. He was leading an elderly woman into the room. His mother, Sarah. "It's time, Mom," Mark said, his voice trembling. "The doctors say your memory won't hold much longer. You have to tell me where she is. You told me Evelyn ran away with the boy in '99, but I found her ring in your jewelry box last week." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a second family. This was a tragedy. Sarah sat on the small bed, her eyes vacant. "I did it for you, Mark," she whispered. "She wasn't good enough. She was going to take you away from me. I made sure they stayed right where they belong." She pointed to the floorboards beneath the rug. Mark ripped the rug away, his hands shaking. He pulled up a loose board. Inside wasn't a hidden room. It was a small, sealed wooden chest. Mark didn't have a second family.
He had a mother who was a monster. She had killed his first love and his son decades ago to keep him under her thumb. And then she had watched him marry me, keeping the secret buried in the attic for 25 years.
I stepped out from behind the curtain, and the look of pure horror on Mark's face is something I will never forget. He wasn't the villain. He was a victim of a lie so dark it had consumed his entire life. We called the police that night. Sarah was taken away, still whispering that she did it out of love. Our marriage survived, but the man I knew died that day in the attic. Now, every time I look at him, I don't just see my husband. I see the ghosts of the life he was supposed to have.